These are the best DPS heroes in Overwatch 2 Season 1 right now. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Stylosa. So, in this video, we're going to look at the best heroes right now because the meta has changed and certain hero power levels have definitely changed from the original tier lists that came out when the game launched. And there are some very interesting changes here. So, we're going to focus on the damage heroes here. And I must note as well, this is more specifically designed for Masters and below. If you're a GM player, you probably know the answers to this, but unfortunately, we're not all GM players. So you can look at the GM level and go, actually, a really good example of it's a tank example, but I'm just going to go for it. D.Va is really good at the GM plus level. However, at lower levels, you might get more sort of joy playing an Orisa or something like that. So it isn't as cut and dry as like, oh yeah, let's just play what the best players are playing, because that doesn't always filter down. And also, some heroes are seeing a resurgence in power level. So let's focus on this. Again, it is for Masters players and below. So I think this will apply to most of us when we watch this video. And it will be actual usable information rather than just roll out whatever the highest level players are playing. Okay, let's start with what I honestly believe is the most OP hero in the history of Overwatch. In the damage category, I should add there, because obviously Brig would be the most OP hero when she launched. Anyway, it's this hero. It's Sojourn. She is S+ mega meta. She is the best DPS in the game right now, and it's very simple why she is. Now, we refer to her as a hit scan hero. However, you are very right in saying, actually, Sty, she's not. She's got a projectile primary fire that you spend most of your time firing, which is true. In essence, she's a hybrid, right? She's a hybrid primary fire projectile, but her alternate fire, the railgun, is a hit scan sniper weapon without a scope. That's the way to look at it. So what you're doing is you're sliding into battle, or maybe you're in battle already and you're keeping your power slide for needing to reposition, which is also another bonus of her and a mega strength because she's highly mobile. A lot of the new maps have got tons of vertical cover. They've got tons of flank. She can abuse this. She can disengage and re-engage. She can do all kinds of stuff with the movement. It is just absolutely incredible movement. But you're firing your primary fire at targets to charge the railgun. And what you want to do is get the railgun to 100% and then basically click on an enemy player that isn't the tank. And if you hit them in the head, they're probably dead. That is incredibly powerful because what you have got is you have got this hero. Oh, by the way, Widowmaker isn't S tier at all. But you've got Widowmaker's one-shot kill ability in a hero with a ton of brawl ability. And we haven't even spoken about her E ability. So her slow, when she fires that into the ground, it's really annoying because it slows you down in it, but it also does damage to you. It's really good for denying area, and it's really good if she wants to take a 1v1 duel as well at point-blank range. She can do that, but also she can take 1v1 duels at any range if a railgun is charged. So what you've got is this brawler, highly mobile Widowmaker that is just doing tons of damage. Her ultimate is really good as well if you can land the shots. That's always the thing with Sojourn. But as players get better, well, they land more shots. So the reason why she is mega meta is she can just destroy your team. And that's it, and you're dead. And you're like, okay, well, we got Sojourn. Now, talking of the highest tiers, when you start getting into High Master and then you start getting into the sort of GM5, GM4 and above, Sojourn will be in every game. She'll be in absolutely every game because DPS will be expected to play her because she can just delete people out of the game. However, for us mere mortals in Masters and below, you don't always have to pick Sojourn, but be aware she is very strong right now, and I think she will get nerfed at some point. Although, the next hero we're going to talk about is the one that Blizzard seems to be looking at nerfing, especially if you want to believe what Aaron Keller says on Twitter, that yes, they are looking at Genji. I don't think Genji's S tier. I did think he was this tier when the game came out. I was like, oh my god, Genji's so good. There's no counters to Genji. Genji can just whip out his Dragon Blade and destroy the whole team. No one can stop him. However, players are starting to stop him, right? So Genji, this is the really fun thing. Genji, people are killing him. So now he's actually going down in power level. And I reckon if you leave Genji as he is, probably will drop down to maybe even be playable. But at the moment, I still think he's very good. You have to be aware of what the enemy are doing, what their team comp is, because you, or rather, do you? Well, you need to be aware of what ultimates they've got available. So if they've got Lucio, which they probably will have because Lucio's really strong right now, probably the best support, they can sound barrier your Dragon Blade, which is never good for Genji. They might have a Zen who can transcendence the Dragon Blade. But what it means is the teams are a bit more difficult to get that Dragon Blade, which results in like a complete team wipe. You may be able to just get a 1v1 and totally fine then just to whip out Dragon Blade and kill one hero. That's completely worth it in my book. But it's going less of the sort of route of Genji's just dominating everyone and he's untouchable, to players realizing, you know what, if we just shoot Genji, he's going to die, which has always been the case, but I think we're seeing more of that now, and I expect him to go down as players get more used to that. Now, the other thing with Genji, and this is very similar to the next hero that I want to bring up, which is Tracer, is these two heroes are highly mobile and highly self-sufficient. So in this world of Overwatch 2, where there is a very strong map meta, the new maps, well, you're very good if you're these two heroes because you're highly mobile. You don't need line of sight to your healers all of the time or to your supports, because you should be able to look after yourself with your movement. You should be able to get to the health packs, get out and disengage when you need to, reposition when you need to. And so they're really strong. And again, this is one of the reasons why Sojourn is mega strong, because her movement is incredible. But yeah, Tracer, she's a flanker. Overwatch 2 loves flankers. If you play her right, which is basically timing your attacks to when your team push, if you wait for your tank to engage and then you engage their backline, you're stopping their backline, if it's an Ana or if it's a Zen, actually healing their front line and also providing supplementary damage or crowd control or whatever it may be. It's all about timing with Tracer. You can play her like a complete rogue and just go off and engage people at will. And even then, it can be super frustrating because the enemy team will be constantly pinging behind themselves like there's a Tracer. Can someone deal with the Tracer? And it can get really out of hand. But remember, on all of the newer maps, they're basically built for Tracer and Genji. And they are really, really strong because they're highly mobile. So these are very, very good picks at the moment. Keeping it in the very good tier, we're going to go for Reaper, because Reaper is sickeningly good. Now, we need to talk about team comps. We need to talk again about maps, because Reaper is dependent on that. You have to be quite, well, this might be controversial, but I've noticed that if you play more of a sort of Reaper just stays with his tank, you're more effective than a flanking Reaper. Flanking Reaper on paper could have been a great thing. Oh my god, Reaper's always on the flanks. Reaper gets close range to anyone, they're basically going to die. But actually, you're not in the fight, and you let the enemy tank have a free roam. And if your tank's fighting their tank, you damn well want to be there with your Reaper killing their tank. Reaper is so strong for killing tanks. Now, the thing with tanks is they are super strong anyway. So if a brawl is breaking out and it's close range and you're there with your tank engaging the enemy team, it's probably a good idea to ignore the tank, just walk behind it and just start killing whoever is there. Because remember, you heal yourself when you do damage. So Reaper it's almost like a mini tank in a way, Reaper is. He's very durable. He can brawl with tanks, which literally nobody else can unless you are a tank. But he can delete other DPS if they get close enough to him. I mean, like Genji. If Genji gets close to a Reaper, Reaper can wreck the Genji. So Reaper is very, very strong. So be aware if you see a Reaper on the enemy team and you are a tank player, you probably don't want to go anywhere near him, especially if he is playing with his tank. It's a big problem. If he's flank Reaper, yeah, it can be frustrating, but flank Reaper, you're better off playing a Genji, or you're definitely better off playing a Tracer, I would say, especially at Masters and below. But Reaper, oh my god, he's very, very strong. And also his ultimate, this is something we should probably talk about. Unless there's a diva, Reaper's ultimate is pretty much going to hit you in some capacity. You might be able to crowd control him with maybe an Ana sleep. You might be able to, like maybe Reinhardt can spin his barrier around in time or something, but you are going to take damage from his ultimate. It's down to you how much damage that will be. And I tell you what, I've been getting deleted by Reapers, just absolutely teleporting in, dropping off the high ground and killing everyone. Okay, next up, we're going to go for Soldier. Now, I'm putting Soldier in the very good tier simply because he is better on the new maps than Ashe. Ashe is Soldier's friend, but I'm going to put Ashe into the playable tier because I believe Soldier is better. Now, let me explain why I think this is the case. Soldier can abuse respawns on push maps, right? Now, you can say, well, okay, Sty, maybe just play Soldier on push maps and then pick Ashe on, I don't know, Dorado or whatever instead of Soldier. That's completely fine. You know, and also remember, Ashe is, her ultimate is pretty good. Bob is pretty good, not to be sniffed at. Anyway, this is about Soldier at the moment, so let's bring Ashe back out of this. So Soldier, mobility, excellent, 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 excellent. On the push maps, they are so big and there's so many places you can be. Soldier is a goddamn nightmare when he is on the flank, when he is pressuring the team from an off angle. He's not, you never want to be sending it down middle of Soldier. You always want to be on the periphery of the battle. You want to be hitting people from the sides. You want to be pressuring their back line. And if they come after you, well, you can just run away because you're Soldier. Or if it's a 1v1, this is where Soldier gets really, really good. You drop down that biotic field and you take that 1v1. The Soldier 1v1 against Genji, it's not easy. It's doable. You just need to wait for him to deflect and then shoot him. Tracer, you just shoot her, basically. Reaper, you want to be, well, not really near Reaper. You want to, if Reaper's near you just run off. Basically, that's your counter to Reaper. But out of the heroes we've got on at the moment, Soldier, I really think he's really, really good. Because on push, like the thing with push is if you get a kill, with Soldier, you can rapidly relocate to their spawn and kill that player again. If the enemy team want to come and find the Soldier, maybe they're pinging like crazy behind, like, oh, Soldier's behind, but you're waiting for that Zen to respawn. There's a good chance you'll kill that Zen because he won't expect you wherever you end up popping up to take him on. Maybe Zen kills you, but you're going to be there to harass him. And if you play with that kind of momentum with Soldier, you can take over these push games, and it is just ridiculous. But like I said, I think Ashe is better on some other maps and other game modes, but Soldier, you know, you take him on control, he's very good. You take him on push, he's very, very good. He's just old, reliable, Soldier is, and I think he's very good. Will he drop down to playable? I don't know. I think he's probably going to stay at this tier, especially for this season. I think he's just so good. So let's move on to Ashe. Now, I've already teased this, and I've put Ashe into the playable tier. Now, this is because she doesn't have the mobility of Soldier. She does, though, on paper, have higher kill chance, let's say. She can secure effective eliminations easier than Soldier at range if you're landing the shots, and that's a powerful thing, especially in 5v5 where you have more space. The thing is, though, she finds it difficult to reposition herself when compared to Soldier. Soldier and Ashe are always going to be the heroes that are compared with each other, I feel. I think Ashe's ultimate is better than Tac Visor, although Tac Visor, if there's no D.Va, if there is a free firing field in front of you, you can pop Tac Visor and it can be very powerful. And also remember with Tac Visor, a lot of people forget about this, but if you aim at the critical or the headshots or the crit spots while Tac Visor is active, it will actually headshot. So you can do tons of damage with it. So it's still worth aiming when you're using it. Don't just willy-nilly fire it into the enemy, although it's still quite effective as that. But Bobby can contest points. Bob in the back is always a frustrating thing to deal with. He's a souped-up Torbjourn turret. But yeah, I just think Ashe just loses out on this because of her mobility. And if you get Ashe in that 1v1 scenario, she's easier to kill than Soldier. Soldier is more resilient to that. And also, I think Soldier can just put out more consistent DPS. But Ashe is still playable. You know, if you are an Ashe player, just go out there and play Ashe. And I think you will find everything to be juicy. Talking of juicy, let's go for it. Cassidy. Now, I put Cassidy in the weak tier in my first tier list. And this was wrong. This was terrible. I really enjoy playing Cassidy. So maybe there's a bit of bias creeping in here. But the thing with Cassidy, yeah, he's not mobile. You're not going to be getting to the high ground super quick like Sojourn or Genji or whatever. That's just not going to be happening to you. Or even Ashe with a coach gun. You are going to be with your team, right? You're going to be with your support. That's the critical thing here. The benefit you get as Cassidy when Lucio is near you, when Brig is near you, when Moira is near you, when you're near your tank, it's great. It's like the best way to explain this. It's like Reaper. It's like a hit scan Reaper. You're so good at pumping out the damage, and guess what? If a flanker comes in to take on your support in any kind of way, Cassidy can wreck them. Cassidy's grenade has secured me so many. Like, I thought this was a trash ability, but it has secured me so many kills just because all you need to do is get a good headshot or a couple of body shots on a Genji and then stick the bomb to him. He's dead, provided you don't throw it as deflect, but it's easy to work around that. Tracer's a bit different because if you throw the grenade at Tracer, she'll recall. But if you know she's used recall, the grenade on a Tracer is absolutely devastating. And you can even just fan the hammer at her and kill her. So I reckon Cassidy is playable. I'm not going to say he's very good. I think that's taking it a bit too far. But he's definitely playable. If you are against Genjis and Tracers and Sombras, you can break him out and absolutely slap people with him. It is disgusting. I really underestimated him. His damage potential is really high. I just wish he had more mobility, but maybe that's the price because of his damage is so good. But he's really good against heroes that are better than him. That's the way to look at Cassidy. He will shut down the flankers. Now, I think we should move on from Cassidy here. Well, we'll just quickly touch on his Deadeye, his ultimate. It's okay. It's easier to use this in 5v5 because there's less tanks. So it's very unlikely you'll have a D.Va in your face because, well, you'll know if they don't have a D.Va. Well, if they have a D.Va, then you'll be like, okay, they've got a D.Va. I need to be careful of this. But if they got Zarya, you're just like, well, okay, I'm just going to position up for a cheeky Deadeye. And you can get a lot of success going for the old flank Deadeyes and stuff like that. Although it is a risky business. But yeah, Cassidy, I think he's really, really good at the moment. So I may have lied about S plus Mega Meta. Now this is going to be one of those things which is... I've had Sombras on my team that have been terrible and have had no damage, and they're playing her because they've probably watched the tier list video that says Sombra is great. Yeah. Now, there's two ways of playing Sombra. The first way is Sombra acts almost like the example I gave of Soldier, where she is killing someone in the back line and then spawn camping them, especially on the new maps, because she's invis all the time. The other way you can play her is you can hack the tank over and over and over again, and it is so frustrating when Sombra does this. It shuts down the tank player. Now remember, Sombra does more damage to targets she hacks, so actually she can hack the tank, pile damage into it, and if your team focus the tank down, it's surprisingly effective, because if the tank dies, that's it. You pretty much lose the fight in almost every possible scenario. So she's really, really good. But the thing is here with Sombra, and this is why I'm like, I believe she is mega meta. Absolutely, I believe she is. But she can also fall down to like sort of playable niche pick. She can even be weak if the player has no idea what they're doing, if they're not coordinating dives with ping. Another way you play Sombra is if you know you've got like, I don't know, you can do this with the Kiriko, but she's not in competitive at the moment. But if you've got a Tracer, you can ping the target you're about to hack, and then you and Tracer can literally jump on that target together, and it will be dead because it will die, because you've literally got two massive amounts of burst damage going in, because when the target's hacked by Sombra does more damage to it. Tracer comes in and just hits them as well. It's just massive damage. It will kill people. So I'm going to have to leave her mega meta. But from like, if I was to use my play style and the way I play the game, if I played Sombra, she would not be mega meta. It would be like weak, because I'm crap at Sombra. But if I played Soldier or Cassidy, I'm better than maybe these tiers. But obviously, I wouldn't put Soldier into mega meta. I wouldn't go up a tier with Soldier. But you get what I'm saying, guys. Like, she's a hero that you need to know how to play properly, and she's a bit more complicated than just sending it down mid and running at people and killing them. But you can get success if you're killing someone like a Zen and then spawn camping them on push maps. It is disgusting, and it will force the enemy team to do something about it. And if they don't, then you will win. So you have to be very, very aware of that with Sombra. But she's, well, I guess you could say she's feast or famine, but if you slightly know what you're doing and you communicate well with your team, it is a massive, disgusting feast, especially on push maps. Let's go for a niche pick here, or a niche pick. To my American chums out there, it's niche though. I am very British. Anyway, Widow. Oh, Widow. You have probably been in a game where Widow has killed your whole team and you're like, what is life? Why am I playing this game? But it's probably been Junkrat. Or maybe it's been Circuit Royale on the second point, and maybe the first point. After that, maybe not as good. Widow is the most map-dependent DPS there is. Because, and also she's highly dependent on what the enemy are doing. So if the enemy have got a Sombra, and the Sombra is going after the Widow all the time, that's going to be bad news for the Widow. If the Widow is trying to play Widow on, I don't know, Colosseo, she's going to have a real bad time, because the sight lines are terrible. There's some which are okay around the Colosseum itself, but you're not going to be able to be effective. You would be better off playing a Sojourn, because you could brawl and then go for those highly accurate railgun shots like Widow. But on Junkertown, Widow loves it because the sight lines on the first point are so disgustingly massive, she can just destroy the enemy team and literally win the fight single-handed. And there's very few heroes that can do that. Same goes for Circuit Royale as well. She can just destroy people on the first point, and then on the second point, loads of line of sight, massive areas to play in, massively powerful. And on some of the push maps, she can be kind of okay, although I did just slate her on Colosseo. But on like New Queen Street, she can be okay. So yeah, you kind of need to be aware of what map you're playing on. Even if your aim is absolutely cracked with Widow, there are times where you should be playing Sojourn instead, and you probably will notice your win rate go up, which is definitely niche. And if you load into Junkertown and you're like, right, I'm a hit scan player, I'm going to crank out that Widow, it's going to be more effective than any other DPS pick, most likely, because you're just going to click on heads, because there's one less tank, and that's another massive bonus when it comes to Widow. There's less stuff to harass you. I think another niche pick is Bastion. Bastion's obviously not playable as of recording of this video, because he's been taken out for an ultimate bug. However, the way Bastion is designed is you get to be Bastion for every 12 seconds for a few seconds. And in those few seconds, every 12 seconds, you can wreck people. You can wreck a tank. You can wreck some beefy characters. You can do quite a lot of damage. When you're not playing Bastion and you're just sort of in recon mode doing your little piddly poke damage, you're not really up to much. Your little bouncy sticky grenade isn't really that great. But that tank mode you can go into is disgusting when you can do it. But it's only really effective against certain teams. I mean, if the enemy have got a Reinhardt and the Reinhardt is being especially aggressive, which he should be if he's playing Overwatch 2, right? you can abuse him. So when he comes in, you can go tank mode and just wreck him. Pile the damage into him. It'll be massive damage. The rest of your team, it doesn't even need to be the rest of your team. If your tank's just fighting him as well, probably be enough to take him down into the red or maybe even kill him. So I think he's a niche pick, but I think he's good at what he does. I just think he's kind of boring to play, but he's not even playable at the moment. So it's a big unlucky for Bastion. I think another niche pick hero is definitely Mei. Mei... So I thought Mei would be better than she is, and I'm kind of a bit shocked that she's not, because think of Mei. She's almost like a mini tank. But the problem is, Mei isn't mobile, which is a major, major negative in this new Overwatch 2 world. Her wall can be easily circumnavigated in a lot of scenarios. It isn't as powerful as it used to be because we're not playing 2CP anymore, which it used to be really strong on. You know, think of King's Row. It's in the map pool at the moment. Yeah, she can still wall people off on the first choke point. That's great. But that's kind of it. That's where her utility ends with the wall. So the wall itself isn't really that good, just because of the way maps are now designed. So there's more flanks. You know, you look at the new maps, they're just more flanks. I mean, I don't really know what more to say. This really curtails the power of a wall. I mean, it can still be used to block ultimates. It can still be used as an additional mitigation tool in a fight, which is fine. Mei herself, though, also heavily loses because she doesn't, like, freeze anyone anymore. Slowing them down with primary fire is frustrating, is obnoxious, but it does not a lot of damage, and you kind of want to be using your alternate fire, to land the headshots to do the damage with Mei. But when they're close range, you kind of want to use your primary fire, but it's just not as good. The problem with Mei is she basically depends on other people to help her out. She isn't able to go out there and fight on her own. She needs assistance, and I just think it's kind of not great to pick her at the moment. There's so many better and different options. If you wanted the Mei playstyle of maybe you're inside your team and you're sort of almost playing in like a tanky, brawly way, just play Reaper. It's just better, or even just play Torb. It's just better, right? So yeah, I'd be very aware of that. And in fact, to be honest, we should probably move on to Torb. Oh, one thing I will say before we do move on is obviously Mei's ultimate does still freeze people, and it can still be quite strong. It's probably the best thing she's got at the moment is her ultimate. Yeah, so let's move on to Torb. I'm going to put Torb into playable. So I think he's good. I think Torb is really, really good because Torb, I mean, he's not in the game at the moment. Again, this is another strange one. So he's taken out of competitive for a bug. And the bug is he could use Overload twice, which obviously makes him super OP. But Torb, again, is like Reaper, but I think Reaper's better than Torb. So Torb can take out tanks. Torb can be in the fight. Torb is highly durable with his Overload. Healers love Torb because if you've got a Lucio, you get him passively healed and it's great. Briggs also can look after him. Anna's can look after him. Batiste can look after him. Like, everyone can look after Torb. And Torb is just... and his turret, that's the other thing with him. It's good at annoying Sombra and annoying Tracer and Genji, because these three are going to be messing around somewhere behind you most of the time, and your turret can actually be quite good at that, and it can help identify them when they are trying to hack targets, when they are trying to harass your backline. So Torb, I don't think is necessarily a sleeper pick, but I've definitely had quite a lot of success playing with him when you could, before they removed him from competitive. But I think he's really, really good. But probably I would go for the Reaper. So again, I guess I could say, based off what I've just said, that if the enemy team have got a Sombra, Genji or Tracer, I might play the Torb instead of the Reaper. But if they don't have those three, and they've maybe just got a more, a slower move in comp, maybe they've got a Mei and what would they have, a Hanzo and a Mei? I don't know. I'm just making this up as I go along. I'd play the Reaper into that because I know my back line is not going to get harassed. Whereas the Torb would be able to assist the backline a little bit with his turret. So it would be, on paper, a slightly better pick. And of course, Torb's ultimate is just whatever. It's fine. It's okay at denying area and space, and that's kind of it. Good stuff. Okay, let's move on to Hanzo. Oh, so Hanzo straddles the line between weak and niche pick, I think. And I'm going to... Or do I say... no, he's not weak. I'm going to say he's niche. This is because if you can aim with Hanzo, and when I mean aim, I mean you've got like over 50% shots are landing, then yeah, you can make things work. But the problem with Hanzo is these new maps. The new maps very rarely have people sending it down in the same position. Like, you will have flankers. You will have people running through a countless number of flank routes to access your team to do damage, even to take you on as Hanzo. So you can't sit there and spam chokes where you would expect people to be. Again, this is because of the removal of 2CP. Hanzo could have been quite good on those maps because you know where to spam, right? You could get that pick and then let's go. It's much harder to do that now because Hanzo needs to be sort of almost looking all over the place, getting ready to react, popping storm arrows at the right time if he's being harassed at close range. All of this stuff. Like, it is difficult to get a ton of value with Hanzo unless you are really adept with the heroes, aiming mechanics. If you're not, you're going to suffer because you're just going to end up with no damage. And I've seen a lot of Hanzos in games that I've played that have had woeful damage because they literally have not been able to hit anyone because either they're dead or they can't see them because everyone is so spread out. There's no longer this death ball of players that you can just spam shots into. So I'm going to leave him as niche. I don't want to say he's weak because if you can play Hanzo, you can still get a lot of value up to at least Masters level with him. But I would be cautious because I'd look at other heroes definitely instead of being that focused on the Hanzo. Because I think he just falls short in a lot of areas. And of course, his ultimate, well, unless people are running through the train on Midtown, his ultimate's not great. If they're running through the train and you've got your ultimate, you've got a team kill there. But if they're not, then yeah, it's kind of difficult to get value for that. Again, just because players are generally more spread out in this new world of Overwatch 2. You know what? Junkrat's my favorite character, but I'm just going to throw him into weak. I'm just going to put him here. I just don't think Junkrat has any of the... Yeah, you can argue that Junkrat suffers from no 2CP, which, yeah, he was traditionally fairly strong on. But I think the issues are more than that. I think Junkrat, you need sustained damage in this game. You need consistent damage. If you don't have it, then relying on the randomness of your projectiles to get the kills can be quite difficult. And because there's one less tank, it's much harder to just spam into easier, bigger targets. Now you're trying to spam into sort of choke points. You're trying to spam, I don't know, maybe even trying to 1v1 people with Junkrat, which, okay, you can get some success with if you're throwing the concussion mine and maybe you land a primary fire, or you throw 2 concussion mines into a target at close range. I think his ultimate's not great as well. I think his ultimate actually is pretty bad. With the power of Sojourn, Soldier, Ashe, Cassidy, they can just destroy his ultimate as soon as they see it. So he can be countered quite easily. I think he just really suffers, Junkrat. And it's sad because Junkrat's got some of the best voice lines in the game. And I still think he's my favorite character from just a character design perspective. I love the way that I love his voice actor. I just love everything about him. But I just think he really suffers. And I have to put him lower than niche. He is definitely weak. I just don't think there's any scenario where I'm picking a Junkrat because I think it's going to be more effective than any other DPS hero. It's kind of sad really for Junkrat, but I think again this is just because more mobility means it's harder to land those hits with Junkrat. Symmetra, I'm afraid she's also weak as well. Now there are niche cases and edge cases where Sim can be really good if you manage to charge up your primary fire and then just go on a killing spree, because I think it might be bugged, the primary fire. I think it still does quite a lot of damage, more damage than it should do. But again, she's a hero with a kit that's built around a game that isn't as fast, as fluid, as mobile as Overwatch 2 is. Her turrets are almost useless because they will just get killed or they'll be out of position. They won't get any kind of value. It's very difficult. Yeah, you could say on like Circuit Royale, you could, I don't know, maybe put your turrets on the bridge, first point defense. Okay, might be slightly helpful there, but again, there's just better heroes to play. You could even say, why not just play a Hanzo and spam down that choke? It might be more effective. I don't know. A teleport was okay. Her ultimate is, again, pretty, her ultimate's pretty good when it's used, especially if it splits a fight in half, and then suddenly your guys can just do damage through it and the enemy team can't access your backline maybe, or your supports, or even your DPS, and then your DPS can just free fire into the enemy team. Can be really strong, but I just think she's got a kit that needs updating, and I don't really know, I think Blizzard don't really know what to do with her. She's had that many different reworks throughout the history of Overwatch. I think she's probably one of the... I think she might be even weaker than Junkrat, which is kind of unfortunate. Although she does have her long-range alternate fire, which is moves faster than it used to do in Overwatch 1, and yeah, it can do some stuff. But again, there's so many better picks than this hero. Unless you absolutely want to play Symmetra, I would just avoid playing Symmetra. Next up is Pharah. Now, Pharah. This hero... So she's kind of like Widow, where I can cheap out and put her into C tier, although I could put her into playable. Now she's not very good, but she could be play. So let me just reason with this. I am going to put her into C tier, but let me show you how I get here. So B, playable tier. If there is no hit scan, you can play Pharah, and the same goes for Echo as well. But you can play Pharah, you'll have a great time. If there is hit scan and it can aim, you will have a problem and you will go down into this tier because you need to completely change your playstyle. You need to almost become dive Pharah. You also need a Mercy as well. If you're going to go on your own as Pharah, you are going to die. So you need Mercy. That's, of course, if you want to change your playstyle to the sort of more close-range dive Pharah. If you... I mean, you can use Mercy with standard Pharah gameplay, I guess, when you're just sort of firing from range with your rockets, ducking and diving with the cover, because damage-boosted rockets are still disgusting. But if any hit scan is on the field at all, you will not be playable. You will be very niche. And so you should probably swap your hero to Echo. And I guess this is the reasoning I can move on to Echo, is I put Echo in playable, just because I think she's a better Pharah. And that's literally it. So Pharah's ultimate is trash, because you'll just die when you use it, because it's always been trash. Yeah, sometimes you can get kills with it, and it's not completely terrible, but it's not great. I'd say only Junkrat's Riptire is worse when it comes to the ultimate stakes. But Echo. So Echo's more maneuverable than Pharah, so this gives her sort of a one-up over Pharah in terms of her movement ability. She's harder to hit. She's a smaller model as well, I believe. Her hitbox is smaller, so it's more difficult to hit her. Her ultimate can be game-winning, and it's very simple. Well, let's say fight-winning. Maybe not game-winning, but fight-winning, because all you can do, or all you should do with this, is clone a tank. Clone the enemy's tank, and then it's Christmas. Because 2 tanks in Overwatch on the same team is so ridiculously OP, you'll just win the team fight. Unless the enemy team run away or they do some sort of funky counter ultimates to shut you down, you'll just win over and over again. But again, the problem is, if they've got a hit scan against Echo, you need to be very aware of that, and maybe even knocks down to this tier. But I think she's playable unless there's hit scan, in which case she's still kind of playable, but you're going to need to be a bit more clever, and you don't always have to have the Mercy in your pocket, which obviously Pharah needs that Mercy pocket, but if you get that with Echo as well, it can be quite beneficial. Okay, all right, there we go, guys. That's what I think is the best DPS in a tier list format below Masters, or Masters and below, let's say. I think this is a pretty solid list, and yeah, I think I've explained in as much detail as I can. I don't want to drag this video out for any longer than it needs to be, but let me know in the comments below, guys, what heroes have you been having success with in DPS? I think if you play any of the heroes from the top 3 tiers, I think you're having a pretty good time. And then if you get clever and maybe you're a Soldier player or a Sojourn player, but you bring out the Widowmaker on Junkrat first point attack, you can absolutely win that fight, like just through your hero selection, which is so powerful. All right, guys, I'm going to leave the video at that. Thank you for watching. I've been Stylosa, and I hope this video has been informative. I will look at doing the other variations of this. We'll do it for tanks and we'll do it for supports as well, as I'm getting more to grips with the game myself. I don't want to just make tier lists when I've not had enough experience. I've played enough DPS games now to sort of get a very good grasp as to who is powerful and who isn't. And yeah, I just hope this is helpful. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch you lovely lot on the next one. See you soon.